Thank you for that introduction, Mr. Ward. My name is Wardy Ward, and I'm one of the tour guides on an important episode of What's Up Aboard the podcast. This is a self-help show that helps people like you and me hear from other people and their lens of perspective. You can also feel free to check us out on YouTube at What's Up Aboard TV, and you can also have chances to win prizes and money there as well. We come from the good hood where we give it good and get it good. I want to give a shout out to my co-host in the building, Tiki the Talker. What's up with you?
What's up, Ward? I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, I cut my toenail too low today, but that's another story for another day.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah, everybody has a story to tell, but we just want to know yours. Our guest today has come all the way from the city of Indianapolis, Indiana, and they're going to share their story of love, life, and more. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Shawn and Paris to the show. How are you guys doing today?
Welcome.
We're doing pretty good. How are you guys?
We're doing okay. You guys got about my toenail issue, but I'm going to be okay. It's not about me. So, first of all, I want to congratulate you two on your upcoming nuptial. When is the actual wedding date?
Absolutely.
It is December 9th of this year.
Ooh, that's coming up real fast. That's real fast. Okay, good. Let me write that down. December 9th.
Yep.
So y'all want to do something cold, huh? Y'all want to do it in...
Well, we're going to Jamaica, so we'll be in Jamaica.
Oh,
Nice.
Yeah. It'll be nice.
Have y'all been there before? Jamaica?
Yes. We just went
okay.
in January just to see everything.
You check it out.
Yep.
Wow, that was smart.
Yeah.
I haven't been anywhere yet. No, I take that back. I went to Kokomo last year about this time. Okay.
Please don't call it a vacation.
All right.
All right.
you got all the arrangements in order? You got all the arrangements in order for your...
Pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
we got a couple of calls with our wedding coordinator, but pretty much everything's in order. Yeah. We just got like his outfit today, or like kind of picked it out, or the suit, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. What are the colors going to be?
The colors are Caribbean blue, like gray, coral. What's the other one? Some kind of yellow. I forget the name. And natural color.
Yeah, that sounds nice. All right, so let's start this show out by finding out a little bit about both of you. These questions go, we'll just do one at a time. Where were you guys born at, first of all?
I'm from Cleveland, Ohio.
All right.
I was born in South Bend, but I grew up in LaPorte, Indiana.
Okay, yeah. Tiki lives in Ohio right now. What part? Where are you from, Tiki?
Columbus.
She's in Columbus.
Nice.
Okay. Yep. And I was raised in South Bend and used to work at University of Notre Dame, worked there for 10, 15 years. So I know exactly where you're from. So, and you guys how did y'all get to Indianapolis then? How did what happened? How'd y'all hear it?
Well, I moved here, or my family did, when I was like around 10. So moved here with my dad. Family, but my extended family still lives in Cleveland, so we go there pretty often to visit.
Okay. Yeah.
So I went to IU for undergrad, and I ended up moving up here just for a job. And then I worked there for like a year and a half with Riley, and I've been here ever since. That was 2017, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I went to IU as well. I stayed over in Teeter. Where'd you stay at?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, that wasn't too far. It's like right next door. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
It's expensive. It's very expensive.
No AC
Yes.
either.
Okay. So and what about brothers and sisters? I'm trying to get a picture of this. What type of nuclear family they had? Was it mom, dad, brothers and sisters, or how many?
I had my mom. My mom was a single mom, but my dad lived here, so we saw him like every other weekend. I have a sister. We were very close, best friends. She's a year older. Yep.
All right. Okay. What about you, Shawn?
2 brothers and a sister. Me and the other brother have the same dad, and then my youngest siblings have a different dad. But we all, my mom, and then we, when I got closer to high school, I ended up moving with my dad so I could live in LaPorte instead of moving.
Good. All right. So how did you two meet? Let's start there. How does this wonderful union come about?
Well, there's a thing called Facebook dating. They have a dating app. And
I did not know that. I did not know that.
Yep. So we met on there. We actually had a mutual friend He was actually with a friend that day because I'm like a person who's like, I want to hang out now. So I messaged him. I was like, hey, let's hang out today. And he was with a mutual friend, and he was like, wait, do you know her? Because like what'd you say?
Yeah,
Like,
I was like, man, she's being like really forward. This
Yeah.
is a real person.
Dang.
yeah, but we didn't hang out that day. We hung out like the next day.
Okay then. Now is this Facebook app, is a charge for this? Because I promise I never know this existed. Wow.
This comes up in the feed. They just offer this as an option. Would you like to get to know somebody? This is always
Really? That's how it works? I did
yeah.
not
Would
know
you like
that.
to? I don't know what the wording is. Yeah, but they are always offering to hook you up with somebody. So yeah, it's come up in mine.
Okay. All right. So you guys met each other on the Facebook, and then you hung out. So how did it progress? How did you know? What were you two at that point? You feel like I'm ready to date for marriage? Because a lot of times people will date and it's like, I'm just gonna date this person. I'm not really serious. How did we know he was the one? Well, we know Harry Paris wanted you to be the one, but how did y'all progress it along? How did it get there?
I would say that I was definitely dating to like find the right one. I had plenty bad relationships or like trying to find people. So I was definitely trying to, but I was still dating like other people I was dating him. And I think he didn't like that just because, I don't like to give my feelings or my heart to somebody when I don't know like their end intentions. Because sometimes you like get your, emotions involved and then they break it off or something.
Of course, yeah.
That's why I like to keep my options open just in case that happened. And I'm like, well, I was dating somebody else anyway.
So how long did it? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Finish. No, I was wondering how long it took you to figure out Shawn's intentions, whether they were
pretty much like you better stop dating other people or it's gonna be over. Pretty much.
Oh, how long did that take? Did that take a week or?
Not very long.
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
No, okay, all right.
Yeah, but then after that, I knew he was the one because I knew he knew what he wanted. Like he wanted something serious. So.
Yeah, that's good too. Because I think I honestly think you can meet and marry somebody in 6 months because you start a job and they give you like a 90-day probationary period, and a lot of people can retire from a job, after working there for so long. So I don't have a problem with that at all. Especially when you dating, to me, is not a sport. It's something that you get to know somebody for marriage, and I find a lot of times that people. Like, we've been knowing each other 8 years, so I'm still trying to get to know her, because I can't be sure. I'm like, well, yeah, Lee, you've been loyal to the Lakers for the last 10 years, and they switched all kind of players. So I commend you guys for that. So, so let's go ahead with that then. So how much do you think that you guys are like your parents when it comes to being in a relationship? And I'll say this, our preference, because whether we know it or not, we're a little bit like our mother and a little bit like our father. And then there's going to be what our experiences have taught us, but we still have that infrastructure of them. So what would you say you've taken away from each parent?
I can go first.
Yeah, you go first.
So my parents have been divorced since I was like, 4, maybe 5, pretty much my whole life. Sometimes I feel like I have like similar tendencies to my mom because that's who I grew up with for the majority of the learning period of my life. That the young age and stuff. But I don't know. I guess I don't know that I'm necessarily like my mom or like my dad, but I do feel like I can relate to my mom if I'm asking her questions about relationship stuff. My mom gives great advice. She doesn't take it herself usually, but that's something that we've kind of talked about growing up and like how she would have done things differently maybe when she was younger in her life or whatever. My mom's been married a couple times, and so like I've been around multiple marriages and asked like, I don't want to do this multiple times. So that's come up between us. That's why like, yeah, maybe going to a different country and getting married is a little bit different. It's becoming more common, but it's not super common. But I told Paris, this is it. Like, if this doesn't work out, I'm happy alone. I'm not doing this multiple times.
I feel you on that one. When you said your mother was married a couple times, what are you like 2, 1? Because that's common.
So she married my dad, my sibling's dad, So she is on her fourth marriage. And there's
Okay.
kind of a running joke. She didn't get offended by it, fortunately, but I told her, like, this isn't meant to be a tradition. I'm not coming to this every year, so you got to figure it out.
So you didn't grow up in the household with your father. How much influence has he had on your life?
I mean, I guess a pretty decent amount. As far as relationships and stuff, I wouldn't say really anything. But as far as like my personal life, like I don't drink. That's definitely related to that situation. My dad has a problem with alcohol. So as a result, I've never had any sort of interest in it. And even when I do try, like it just doesn't, there's no interest to me at all. I don't like any of it. So I guess that's been for me a good thing, but in certain social situations, it can be a little weird because everybody wants to know, why don't you drink? Because I don't want to is the real reason, but everybody thinks
Yeah.
it's the reason.
Yeah. I definitely like you, Shawn. I don't drink either. I've never had a drink in my life. And it was because I grew up, my parents used to make me go to Mississippi every summer. As soon as the school bell rang, I'm gone. And I lived down there with my 30 cousins and 3 ne'er-do-well uncles in a 1-bedroom house. It was terrible. And they got drunk every night. Every night I see somebody throwing up. And so I said, I never wanted to drink. And then, like you said, people always ask, it's like, I'm an anomaly. You don't drink? Like something's wrong with you. Why don't you drink?
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
I don't have a problem with other people doing it. It just not my thing. So yeah, I commend you on that. So, and I want to go touch back on you said your mother getting married multiple times. I think that's probably common a lot. I have an uncle who got married like that because sometimes you might rush into it a little quick. It doesn't mean you're a bad person or anything. It just means you're committed to love, but you maybe not making the best decision. So with that being said, do you feel like you had kind of cold feet about moving forward with wanting to get married? Did that affect you at all?
No, if anything, I'd say it had the opposite effect. With especially like in what Paris was talking about, like I kind of wanted marriage and like that, not necessarily maybe like that hallmark life or whatever you want to call it, but that's something I didn't have growing up as two parents who loved each other. My parents hate each other still.
Oh, okay.
Like they've got along better as I've got older, but I'll be 29 next month.
Okay.
Out of that 29 years, they've got along for maybe 3. So that's something I just didn't have growing up, and I wanted different for my life. We want family and stuff, so I'd like to. I don't want my kids to have the same issues that I did, as far as you got to deal with your parents back and forth, and mom said this about dad, dad said this about mom, and then you're the 8-year-old in between. Like I don't know what to do with that.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tiki. I'll wait.
No, I was just thinking how sometimes people can start really feel like they're at a disadvantage because of the way they grew up or whatever, or maybe kind of feel sorry for the things that they went through, but actually it could be a good thing. Just like you brought out, there's things you see how you don't want to do things in your own life. And I can speak for myself too, that's the case. I'm like, I knew when you grow up and you experience things that you're like, okay, I know I don't want to do it that way. I see how that works or doesn't work. So we as adults, we get the opportunity to live our life and do our life the way we want to do it. So it's a nice thing to be able to do that.
Yep. And also you guys are both working and have careers. Have you guys discussed how you're going to make sure things don't fall apart, so you get in that rut of a relationship kind of going through a decline? I mean, because like you may have to study for like a maths test or something like that, or just other things. It's, you got to take you away from your life. How do you guys keep it fresh, or what's your plan to keep it fresh?
You want to answer that?
I mean, when things come up, like in the example you just used, like I do help her study. I was always like a good student. That comes naturally to me, so I have no problem helping her. Even if it's something I don't know, usually I just look at the resources she's got and I can help her from there. But I think we actually use a lot of those things as like I don't know if I'd call it a partner building experience or anything, but I kind of look at it as we're a team. We should want the other person to be better.
That's very nice. I see you guys. I can tell you guys like each other because Paris sent me a picture of you guys on the beach. That was really nice. I like that. I actually gonna use it as a thumbnail. How often do you guys take vacations, or is that something you're going to do regularly? A nice little trip like that?
I grew up not really taking vacations very often. That was our first big one. And
Okay.
that only occurred because of the wedding. That was the first time I've left the country, but we went to like Gatlinburg last year or 2 years, almost 2 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess annually, if you wanted to put a number on it, but like we have goals. We'd like to see the world a little bit more. I'd like to go to Europe a few times, knock out a few things at a time because airfare is expensive, but yeah, I guess once a year is kind of our goal for a decent vacation.
That sounds reasonable. I was just reading something today about the importance of making sure as a couple that you have recreation together, that you have fun, all the things that does for your relationship. So that's very nice. You plan on once a year vacation, but then how do you plan to make sure that you're keeping up with each other and enjoying each other's company still just throughout an everyday life? Kind of things you plan on?
Yeah, we actually try to do different activities like once a week or like have date nights, just like it's just us two, just focusing on each other. We go to like Walmart, Target, and get like board games. Like we've got a game Jumanji, like a little kid game, just to play. So we try to do like different activities like that, just so you can have that. Even when we had kids, I said that's like the main thing that we have to do is like have time for us because it's not all about kids, even though they're
that's definitely true. I can see that. And I am going to talk to you guys about the kids here in a minute too, but I want to also talk to you guys about finances because a lot of times couples get together and they don't talk about finances. One person may say, well, I want my account because I want to go out and spend this money. I don't want to tell you what you got to do. I got to do. I just know what your guys' take on it. And would you guys do a prenup?
No, we don't need a prenup, I would say.
But that's was basically nothing.
We've been building, but I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, that's like our main argument really is finances, and I feel like we do talk about that because I mean it's important. But we're definitely going to have like our own separate savings accounts. I think that's important to have your own money. Just in case, you just never know when you need your own money. But definitely have a joint bank account. And just we talk about finances, make a list, financial plan, because that's something that credit score. You got to talk about those things.
Absolutely, yeah.
The marriage, so that is we do discuss.
To piggyback off of that, I would say like credit scores. If your credit score and your shoe size are similar, you probably don't make very good decisions.
Definitely.
And so like that's something to be aware of in a partner. But yeah, like she said, it can be a large point of argument for us. I grew up fairly poor. I can stretch $1, but she won't see it that way. She's like, well, I need it. I'll just figure it out. I'm like, no, this is what I got today. This is how this is going to work. But I agree with the multiple bank accounts. I actually stole the idea from Steve Harvey, even though he's been married like 5 times or whatever it is. He said something about like 5 bank accounts. You should have your personal, each of you, so that's 2. Each of you have a savings and then 1 joint. And I kind of like that idea because to me, in a way, if you have 1 joint account, your life could get really damaged really fast in 1 simple mistake. And I kind of feel like it seems a little controlling. I don't need to tell her how to spend the money she earns or vice versa. But we do have like a plan in place as far as this money goes to this bill or the, rent, the mortgage, whatever you have. So we've got a lot of that stuff planned out. Currently we rent, so we don't have a mortgage, but we've got a lot of that stuff planned out based on where the market is and stuff.
That's very wise. So did you just find out by accident that Paris likes to shop, or you found out maybe you were at Walmart, you looked over and the cart was suddenly overflowing, or you looked over and everything that you put in the cart was back on the shelf, and then you're like, we need to have a talk? Is that how it happened, or you just planned?
If you know where those women who shop too much at Walmart are, let me know. She goes to the expensive store. She kind of told me up front.
I did.
But, I mean, we're both kind of similar in that, like, we would rather have like one more expensive item, but we usually talk about it for a while first. I'll talk about it for months before I buy it, probably. She'll talk about it for about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But usually at this point, it's more of a conversation piece. Like, hey, I want this. Well, how much money do we have? Is that feasible right now? Like a common thing that most 20-something-year-olds, like new video game systems. Sure, that's cool, I guess, but why would I spend $500 on that? That's not that important to me. So I look at it from a value standpoint, where she looks at it as a, I don't know, shiny object.
I want it. But I did
Yeah.
tell you I was bougie up front. I said, hey, I like my game bags. So if you don't like that, then the night it's not gonna work.
Right. Yeah.
You were warned. You were warned, Shawn.
Yeah.
We had just interviewed a guy before we talked to you over at Horizon Bank. His name was William Johnson. And I'm gonna give y'all his information too, in case y'all decide to get a house, because he was telling about programs where they have 99% financing with a credit score. Like what would it say, Tiki, 540 and you get a house?
Go as
like,
low as
wow.
5 something. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something to keep in mind. But I like Shawn's perspective, where look like you have down that need versus want when it comes to purchasing things. So you guys have a good balance system there. The yin and the yang is definitely in effect. Because I think I really didn't say I grew up poor, but I was very tight with my money. And it kind of helped me, because when I went to college, everybody was giving me credit cards, and I kind of messed up with that. And I had a credit card for every store in the mall. That's back when people really used to go to the mall. And this is stupid. I maxed them all out and stuff, and that broke me. I said, never, ever again. So now when I buy something, man, I'm comparative shopping. I go to Amazon, I go to Walmart. I look at it's going a minute before I get it. So
Yeah,
I'm kind of hurt that way. Yeah, comparative shopping.
Yeah, there was something she said she wanted, and we set a limit usually every Christmas, like how much are we going to spend on each other. And I had bought her a couple things. She's like, well, I want these boots, just kind of friendly advice about what she wants. And I was like, oh, that's a little bit over. I found them for $30 less somewhere else, but they were the same boots. It wasn't even a different brand. It was the same thing. I was like, you can find it. Sometimes you just got to find a code or some site somewhere.
There's someone who does that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how long have you been together? So you said you set a budget for Christmas. I'm thinking there's more than one Christmases that you've experienced together. So how long you been dating?
Almost 2 years on June 12th.
Okay. Okay. I was curious about that. Yeah.
What type of roles are we going to have around the house? Is it like one person's going to cook, one person's going to do the outside, wash the car, who's responsible for the dog, picking up the dog poop? I mean, is it traditional roles or just 50-50? What are we doing?
I'd say it's probably more of those traditional.
But he can't cook.
Yeah, I don't expect her to cook, but if it's going to be edible, she probably should.
Right.
I think for the most part, like, she does the cooking and cleaning, but it's not because I expect her to. It's because she's better at the cooking and my cleaning isn't up to her standards. So
you take the trash out and handle the dog pretty much. So
that's a sweet deal right there. I guess I didn't have a problem with it, because like I said, before I got married, I had lived alone by myself for a long time. I kind of got in a nice little groove, if I figure if I don't get it done, it's not going to get done.
Right.
And, I had got married, and I don't want to get all into that, but I was going to say the whole financial thing. I'm thinking as I'm talking to you guys, I think about the 5 accounts you said Steve Harvey said, because one guy said something similar. He said, it's like having a box of French fries. And he said, if you put some over here, some over here, some over here, you still got the same amount of French fries. So he made them get rid of all the accounts, and they just had one. I thought that was interesting. But I'm thinking about your perspective. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? How does that work now? You said the 5-1,
Yeah, so essentially it'd be like if you're single, it's not drastically different. So you each have your own checking, you each have your
Okay.
savings, and then you have a joint account together. Typically, that joint account, in my perspective, would be like that's where all my bill money goes.
Okay.
We both use the same bank, so the easiest thing to do would be a joint account, and then we put X amount of dollars for the bills into that joint account. That joint account probably doesn't have a ton of fluctuations as far as like extra money in it, because
Hmm.
all the bills are getting paid from. But then your own account and then your own savings, she might want to save up for something big, but she's not going to tell me about it, or the other way around. So she could save her own money and have her own spending money, and then we have our bill money.
Mm. So when you get to, like, if you're just going out to eat or you're shopping or whatever, is there somebody, whoever gets up to the register pulls out their card and pays with their checking?
Ooh,
Or
good
do you have a
question.
discussion about that this time? Like, I paid for our meal last time, you're paying for this time, buddy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we do
Yeah,
now.
for the most part. I mean, at first there was a point where I was like, I can't keep paying for every date we do. We can't go out 3 times a week to do something. It's like $300 in 2 days. After a while,
why not?
Right. I feel like in the beginning it should be like that. I shouldn't be paying for nothing.
Ain't no way. Mm.
we actually get paid on opposite weeks, so that kind of
Ooh,
works
that's-
out a bit more easily.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real nice. I like that. I guess is it a trust issue then? Would you say when it comes to the separate bank accounts? Because if you guys have got a mortgage and Paris doesn't come up with her half of the mortgage, what you gonna do? You say, I'm not paying my half. This what do you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say it was a trust issue. If anything, it's more of a, what's the word I want to use? Like that you can trust that other person, but we don't want to. So basically, what happened for us is I took another job to put our situation in a better
Yes.
spot.
Okay.
So we don't want. Our goal really is for one of us to have enough to cover all of the bills. So the other person's money is just free money, essentially, to do whatever we want with.
Yeah, I like that.
So that shouldn't really happen, but it's not so much of a trust like concern or anything. I can see why it would happen. I've been in that situation before with like roommates and stuff.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't say it's an issue. If anything, I think it should build your trust if you don't individually have enough. But I can tell you just from our situation, like I purposely took a position that's going to put us where we want to be.
Okay.
So even if it was a concern, it wouldn't really be anymore.
Mhm.
But we kind of have that plan that we can have kind of like, you don't see it anymore, but one working parent and the other
Right.
can stay home or can do other things.
Mhm.
And like we don't have kids now, but that's the goal. Because I've had a lot of conversations with my mom specifically about it. A lot of kids don't grow up with both parents in the house or even with one parent in the house anymore because life is so expensive. Both parents are working all the time, and we want to avoid that. And we're both old enough now that we can get our finances in a good spot. We didn't start at 19, 20, 21,
Mm-hmm. So how do your parents, is there an issue? Are they concerned about maybe even that the kids would be biracial? Is that a concern of theirs? So you got your normal things you're worried about when you have children, but have they said, you've got to think about this too, think about how they'll have to deal with this? Has that ever come up in a conversation with parents?
Not with parents, but I have that conversation. We talk about that a
Yeah.
lot. Like, how do you talk to our child about, different things going on in the world? So we do have this comment. My parents never say anything, but I do.
Mhm. Yeah. Is that something you didn't realize you would have to do, Shawn? You're just like, I just got a kid. I don't, we feed it and put it to bed, right?
Wow, Tiki. That's a dog or a kid.
It's just the basics. Yeah, but this kind of adds another level to that of concern, and it's realistic to actually have that conversation. But is it something you were aware of that you would have to do with Paris?
Kind of. It has come up for us because there are certain just instances, mostly in the news we read about it. We haven't had a ton of like personal issues with it. But it's, I'm assuming everybody can see what we look like. So I'm a white male. You know, society says I have all the privilege, you know, as they put it, but I haven't had to deal with things from a person of color's perspective before. You know, there's been instances like my brother has this exact problem. His son is Hispanic. Somebody called him a racial term in a store when he was 4 years old. My brother's a bit more restrained than I am. I probably would have gotten to a fight immediately.
Yeah.
But you know, there are people out there who treat people differently because of whatever reason they determine makes them less. So for us, you know, I haven't, to answer your original question, it's never really come up as like an issue or anything. My mom's husband is of color. But we have discussed, you know, different things. Like she said, you know, how would you deal with this situation? And the honest answer is I wouldn't. I would have to talk to my dad. You know, I can't change the fact I grew up as a white male. I'm not ever going to have the perspective of, in this case, a black male. There's nothing I can do to really actually get that true perspective. I might be able to gain an understanding, but I will never have that perspective.
That's a good point there. And Tiki has a white mother and a black father. So she kind of went through that. So she was excited to talk to you guys about it too. That's why she kind of asked you how was it, because she kind of had some experiences that we don't want to get into her experiences, but she just kind of told me some things that I didn't think of, you know, and I was like, wow, that is something to think about. So I was asking her, did her parents ever have the talk with her? And she thought I was talking about the sex talk. I was like, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the talk like, hey, you're different. You can't do this, or you can't go there without having to be, you know, extra cautious or careful. And as Shawn, you mentioned that you can't look at it through a lens of a African-American male. I was just wondering, what advice are you going to give your son? Because I'm sure you're going to love your kid because he's you. But what are you going to try to tell him about the world? Because if your perspective has been, I guess they say privilege, I guess, I don't know. How are you going to tell him that?
Yeah, we've had that conversation. I still don't know what my exact answer is. You know, depending on the age of my kid at the time of that conversation, not everybody's going to agree with you. And some of those disagreements are going to come in a variety of escalations. Some people will hate you because you believe this, or you look this way, or right now it seems to be political beliefs are the big problem. If you believe this, you voted for this person. If you believe that, you voted for that person. And that's like, I guess that's supposed to hurt your feelings. I don't know. But just try to help my child understand that people will disagree with you, but you have to learn to draw your line. Some things, you're going to have to stand for, but something like the example I just used, who cares? But if they're going to be disrespectful to you too, that is okay and acceptable to stand up for yourself.
I think it's, I don't know what kind of relationship you have with your mother's husband at this point, but it's nice that maybe you have somebody close in the family that could give you their perspective and things to maybe would be reasonable, whatever, to talk about, good to talk about, you know, with your son to make him aware. So I don't know if that's something that and I'm sure you've got friends.
He's young.
Oh, okay.
He's younger than him.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
that's a different show.
Story.
That's a different show. Yeah, but so maybe do you have people that you are friends or you know, people that you could ask advice for, or what should I be talking about with my child or preparing them for?
Yeah, so in the setting that I work in, it's a good thing HR doesn't exist. You know, you can kind of say whatever you want there. So that it's hard to, you know, cross boundaries or something, and everybody's respectful. So that, I think that kind of makes things a little easier. And I have a couple friends there that I work with that are African American, and they that movie with Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy that came out. Discussing that. I think one of the guys is in a interracial relationship. And then obviously we are, so we were discussing it and he asked my opinion and he liked the movie. We didn't. But
I didn't like it either.
Yeah. I mean, he was all on, I think they brought up some really good things and things that needed to be discussed. And I was like, but did they? Like, I thought that movie was painful to watch, not because they were bringing up things, but because it was uncomfortable and not because it was funny.
Right.
It just wasn't for us, which is fine. If you like it, go ahead, watch it. It's your movie. But yeah, I have people that I work with that I could talk to. I don't have a ton of friends that I hang out with. I have spent a lot of my 20s working. At one point I had 3 jobs. Now I'm down to 1 and every other weekend basically. So when I do get time, I don't really go out and do stuff. I do it with her usually. And then, her dad and I have a pretty comfortable relationship. I don't go over there a lot, but I'm welcome to, and I help her with stuff. And I don't think if I had any questions about anything, I would not feel uncomfortable asking them.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't have a problem with interracial dating with it, because for me, if you're okay with God, you're okay with me. I could care less about color, because when you think about it, animals get along with each other, no problem. I've seen a black cat and a striped cat be best friends, but humans is stupid. I just don't get it. I don't understand it, but I accept it. But I can tell, I really like Shawn. I mean, I don't even know you, but just like he's got a lot of stuff in common with him. I mean, anybody who won't drink and have a lot of, that's just like me, but I like that. So, but I guess the thing about it is when you have kids, it changes your life in a way you never knew. I'd always see these animals in the wild, protective of their kids, and never thought I could be like that. But when you get a kid, man, that's a mini reflection of you. And this world is cold out there. And if somebody says something or does something to your kid, you guys are going to have something in you that goes to another gear that you probably didn't even know existed. And then you start seeing how stupid people can be. That's why we asked you guys about it. We want to make sure you guys were aware that that's just the reality of it. People are just stupid. And it's not so much the younger generation, it's people my age and up. They're the ones who are the problem. They just don't see it now, because now, everybody's like, hey, I think COVID leveled the ground for everybody. Because, like I said, women couldn't go get their hair done, so the ugly girls and pretty girl were even. And then you have, I'm just saying, it was real. And then, people start dating like, well, I do like this person, I do like that person. You got to see the real people. So it's sad that we live in this world, but I'm glad you two found love and you guys are having those tough questions and finding answers, because that's what, in the day, if you guys love each other, it shouldn't matter what anybody else thinks anyway.
Right.
But you had mentioned about political views. How are you guys on a political stance? Are you on the same page, or are you different? Or is it Democrat, Republican, Independent? What's going on in that household?
We're the same views, I believe. I mean,
yeah. I don't think
sure? She like,
go ahead.
Yeah.
I said, you sure? Because you're like, I don't think we're good.
Well, we were really talking
I'm trying to
about
think if
it.
there are any. We tend to just discuss things as they come up, and we tend to usually be in the same boat. Neither of us has hard beliefs on this side is better than this side in this way or whatever. Right. I think personally they're both crazy, both sides. I don't think anything in life works if you just pick one side.
I agree totally.
And, you get a job, and a lot of those questions will ask you, what is an effective manager, or questions like that. And they try to, they talk about groups, and diversity is what they're getting at in those questions. But when they ask that, the actual answer is yes, you want diversity. But when it comes to politics, it's like, nope, you got to pick one side or the other. And it's like, life doesn't work like that. So I think for us, it's been pretty straightforward. We do have disagreements here and there. Nothing specific is coming to mind, but we do talk about things in the news or whatever. And I guess, we usually fall on the same page in that middle ground somewhere.
That's good. I guess I don't get involved with politics because, like you said, for the same reason. I don't think it should be a this or that when it comes to, the humans. We need to get something done. They'll spend 16 months trying to decide if we should give another stimulus check, but they spend 30 minutes deciding if we're going to send to Ukraine billions of dollars. I'm like, he's just trying to give me $600, and
right.
That's my sorry. But so yeah.
I agree.
How did you guys feel about was there a difference of opinion on that whole Capitol building attack? Did you guys see that? Because I know, Shawn, you had mentioned, you said the white privilege is it. Let me just go back. Is white privilege a real thing? Is that it? Can you get
If
advantages
you ask
that Paris can't get?
sister, it's the superpower that I have. Apparently, I had to explain like this. I think
Superpower.
I think that's just a term that our society, and particularly the media, uses. But I'm also aware that people will look at me differently because you have white people are the majority. Maybe not right now. I'm not sure numbers wise, but at one point, white people were the majority. So they wanted to call that the privilege. But, you know, I've dealt with some of the same issues that come up for people who are not white myself. So I think it's kind of a silly way to kind of put things, but the news kind of loves to push that narrative sometimes.
Yeah, I absolutely do. I had a white friend. He told me, he said he didn't think it was a white. Well, he said he agreed that there was white privilege at a certain point, but he said people were talking to him saying he had white privilege. But he said, I live in the same trailer park with the black guy. He said, so what privilege do I have? So
right.
I can see that. So I guess so. I had asked about the Capitol building thing. Did you guys think that would have been different if say me and a couple of my friends ran up there and pulled guns on them? You think it'd been the same result?
I
No.
personally don't.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw it here in Indianapolis. I personally don't agree with the current mayor and most of the things. I think he runs and hides every chance he gets. Which is exactly what he did when we had people rioting downtown. Except they chose to use the word looters and shoot those people with beanbags. And I was all for what those people were going there for. But I was like, if somebody shoots me in the face with a beanbag, cop or not, I don't care. That's it. I'm going to turn on something else, you know. So I think we kind of saw that to a smaller scale than what those riots were. But you notice they use two different terms there.
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. And a lot of times what the media doesn't really talk about those rioters is that there's some nefarious forces out there that suddenly drop a load of bricks around here. Then you have people who go around to different parts of the country to instigate things. So there's a lot of behind the scene things that people really don't know. So those riots really scared me because I had never seen nothing like that in my life. I was like, man, this is crazy. That's not America that I know. I was looking on TV and like, this is crazy. It was like next level.
Our world is really divided right now, and I mean,
it is.
Like I said, I'll be 29 next month, so I haven't been alive that long, I guess, in comparison to a lot of people that are probably going to ask these questions. But I don't feel like our country has been more divided than it has been in these last couple of years, and it's like people can't understand somebody else's point of view. Everything's got to be about who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah. Well, you got to understand also, racism makes money. You benefited by having racism. I have friends who come from Africa and they said, they keep things divided because that, if I can make you stay here and then redline you over here, then you're going to stay in that area. Then it's going to cost more. It's a money making thing. I get that. But to move on, I want to ask you guys about religion. Are we on the same page religiously? Is it okay if Shawn comes home, he shaved his head and he want to wear that orange suit and said, I want to sell flowers at the airport? Is that okay?
Well, this is going to be good by her response. Go ahead, Paris.
We actually talk about this because I am a Christian. I grew up Pentecostal, like really strict, but I'm not strict or like that now. I still believe in God. I want my family or children to know that God is real. I do like to go. I go to church. He goes with me too, but we don't go that often. I would say maybe like twice a month, So that's something that we have talked about because I don't know what you want to call it. Don't believe. I don't know.
I think the technical term is agnostic, I guess. But I feel like the term agnostic seems a little lazy. It's more along the lines of, I don't know. Anybody can say, I don't know to anything. And I feel like that's where they put that whole agnostic group. But I'm not religious. I don't think at any point I really was. I think my dad made me go to church a couple times when I was a kid. But I've just never really believed in any specific religion. I think a lot of them agree on similar things. Most of them agree that there's something above. Whether there is or not, I don't know. And by the time I would, it's not really going to matter to me. I think they all agree on the same concept of be a good person and you'll probably be fine. Whatever that fine is and their definition of good person varies. That's going to change with, your culture and your society at the time. But I wouldn't say it's been a problem for us, but it's definitely something that comes up. I do respect her beliefs. And I've told her, you can believe that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I don't really know what's out there. And yeah, I go to church with her here and there. Because to me, worst case scenario, I spent an hour of my Sunday just helping her with something that's important and of value to her. It's an hour out of my day. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's Paris, go ahead. You were about to say something.
I was just gonna say, but it's when we go, I feel like you do get something out of it because he's like, we go to a non-denominational church now, so I feel like they always have a good message, and he's like, wow, yeah, I really like that. So I still feel like maybe you're still getting something out of it.
I think that's positive.
Yeah, I think when you having children that you may have like a religious background or, it might not be practicing, might not be a big deal, part of your life, whatever. But when you having kids, something kind of flips a switch in people a lot of times about that. Like we need to, how are we going to raise the child? Are we going to instill my faith in them? Are either of you okay if Shawn really doesn't want religion in the home, or let that be pressed? Or is Shawn, are you okay if Paris wants to raise a religious family? Or how have you talked about that? Because that's a potential to cause problems in relationships.
I think they're probably going to be okay, but they already love each other, so I think that's part of it.
I don't remember. We did talk about it. Like, I still want to go to church, and my parents are religious, so if they go to their house, they're going to go to church. My mom goes it faithfully every Sunday, so it's going to be in their life. So we really didn't discuss it. I feel like you never said like you wouldn't be okay.
No, I don't think that would be a I guess concern to me. I think at a certain point everybody makes their own decision whether they continue to believe that that faith or not, or follow that faith. And if that happens, that's fine too. If our child wants to be religious, if they don't, I think everybody reaches that point in their life, whether they flip-flop to some other religion that they believe in or they don't believe in anything. But I've never had any problem with it at all. I can tell you I'm not going to be going on a Tuesday night after I get off work. Like I said, I respect her beliefs, but I also have things that that's just not who I am. But if it was something that was of importance and she was like, hey, as a family, I'd like to do this.
Right. Yeah, that's respectable. But would it be a problem if you're neutral in your religious stance? If Paris says, you know what, I think I'm gonna do devil worship, and it seems like it's pretty cool, I'm gonna put this little star on the floor. Is that okay? You come in this candle burning in, and you okay with that? Because you're like,
well, black and red does fit into my wardrobe a little bit better.
See that?
Not be okay.
No, I think that was something that would bother her. If it were me, I'd just be like, all right, I guess this is a new phase.
Wow. Oh well, she could do it.
Look at that. I've never experienced that situation, I guess.
Okay, yeah, that's just an extreme. I was just joking, but what about secrets? Are there any secrets you guys have, or have you put it all on the line? Is there nothing gonna surprise you 5 years on the line? Or like this one couple I talked to, the guy said he left his girlfriend because they said, I want to be totally honest and transparent with you. Is there anything I need to know or whatever? And she said, okay, I'll be honest with you. I used to be a man. So it was kind of like a deal breaker for him. So I'm just saying, is there anything that's a deal breaker for you guys? Or anything that you haven't, that could come back and haunt you?
That's funny because I asked him the same question. I'm like, what if I was a man? Like, what if I told you that? What would you do? Yeah. He's like, no, don't.
Be careful with that one, Shawn. Be careful.
But no, I feel like we talked about everything. I've been honest and got everything out in the open, and he definitely has. So we've been right now we're in premarital counseling. So
Oh,
we're making
good.
sure, we get everything out and talk about everything, because I don't make sure there's nothing that we haven't talked about, which is why
Yeah.
I push for the premarital counseling. He
Yeah.
finally said he would go.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. So that's actually good. What I've never been there. What type of things do they cover in premarital counseling? What do they talk about?
Well, we just started like last week. Was it last week we just went? But we're gonna do talk about a book, and there's like different topics in the book, like how we
Yeah.
what was it? Like how you argue, communication.
Yeah.
There's a financial piece, like what is like intimacy to you?
Mhm.
I just briefly looked through it, so I think it's called 8 Dates by John Gottman.
Okay.
I think that's his name. It seems like to me it's more of like a guided understanding of what you're reading. But again, we've only been that one time, so I don't know for sure yet. But I personally think that's, for someone like me, that's beneficial. Give me some sort of homework, something to look at, not just, all right, thanks for coming in. We'll see you in a couple of weeks and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. And that doesn't work for me. So she actually found this person. And like she said, I can't keep a secret anyways. So even if I wanted to, I cannot lie. Like I'm terrible at it.
That's good.
We did have, conversations earlier on, and like she talked about with the dating thing earlier, like we made it very clear where we stand on certain things. And, we asked questions that would probably make the other person uncomfortable, but as long as those things that maybe you regret as yourself or the other person doesn't want to hear about constantly, if that doesn't keep coming up, that's not a problem. But I think being honest and open from the start is probably the best way to go. Because you don't want to find out 10 years into your marriage that, oh, actually, I used to do this. And that's like something you're not okay with. Like, that's probably going to be a deal breaker for you, despite the fact that you love that person.
You mentioned there was something in the counseling in the book about how to deal with arguments or whatever. And I think it's interesting because different people have different definitions of what an argument is. You basically have the same definition, or just one of you were like, oh, we were in an argument? I didn't know it was an argument. I thought we were just talking about something. And like, oh no, we've been arguing all week. So I don't know. Do you have the same definition of an argument, or how do you handle arguments when they come up?
I would say yes, probably. I mean, it's easy to tell when she's arguing because she tunes me out and then she'll walk away sometimes, or like I tend to get more a little bit more snippy or something. And I mean, you've probably been in plenty of arguments. You get to that point where neither of you's listening. You're just waiting for them to stop talking so you can respond. And that's actually what we just talked about in our first session. And I get a lot of my relationship beliefs from my grandma. She died in 2018, but her and my grandpa were married for 31 years when he died. And that was the most successful relationship I had seen at that point in my life, at least close to me. So she always told me the main thing was honesty and communication. So her and my grandpa sat at the dining room table, and she said, we might get into an argument. We might hit the table. We might walk off, slam some doors, but we always come back to the table. And that meant a lot to me. When I had that conversation with her, I was mid-20s at that point. But that was something that I could see, like, oh, that's why this works, because, growing up with parents who have been divorced, and I've seen what those arguments look like, and then one leaves, and that's just kind of how it goes. Whereas someone who's been in a relationship for 31 years, plus however long they were dating, they probably know how to handle things. So that was something we already kind of worked with. We don't leave the house. We might go to separate rooms or something if we get into an argument. We do have a gym downstairs, so sometimes I do go down there just to walk or something like that. But for the most part, I think our arguments are maintained and contained. We have a safe word, I guess that's what you want to call it, where like things are getting to be too much right now. Let's put this on pause and we can come back to this I think the rule was at least 20 minutes later, but you have to separate and at the very least go to separate rooms and do something that, and you're not allowed to, like, I can't pick up my book and then just be waiting for, trying to think of responses to whatever she might say when that 20 minutes is up.
Yeah. We just learned that though.
Yeah,
we never
that
did
part
that.
That's very
Yeah.
wise.
We just learned.
I know, for example, many years ago when I was getting married, there was a couple that gave my husband and I at the time some marital advice, and they had been married for years too. And their piece of advice was very similar to that. They said, never go to bed angry, never. And so you do it once and you just a little tear. You do it again and a bigger tear and a big tear until you get to this point where this rift is so big. But if you go to bed, if you resolve the issue before you go to bed, and of course I am religious too, so part of that is like she even added, don't go to bed without praying together, because how can you stay mad at somebody if you're praying together? So yeah, it's very good advice. It apparently works.
We did have an issue one time with that going to bed angry. So we've had that rule for pretty much from the start, because my grandma told me that before we met. Because I'd ask her a lot of questions like, how do you deal with somebody for 30 something years?
Man.
And he died unexpectedly. So, I mean, she died about 15 years after him. And that was really devastating to watch, honestly. She was depressed for 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So I did ask her a lot of those questions because I think it was positive for her to kind of look back and like what went right. She said, divorce came up a few times, but we always came back to the table. But as far as not going to bed angry, there was one time we got into an argument. I don't even know what it was about. She thought I was mad and left. I went out in the living room to play games because I couldn't sleep and I was irritated. So I was like, I just need to do something else. And the next morning she didn't want to talk to me. And I was like, it was wrong.
Let you go.
Left me. I was I was in the living room, 20 feet away.
Yeah, but I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I mean, we didn't
that.
establish like separating or whatever then. So I just thought you left.
Yeah.
I thought she was asleep.
Yeah. See that? Yeah. I'm glad you guys were able to talk about that, because those are those moments you can look back and laugh at. So that's nice to see that. You guys had mentioned that you wanted kids. How many kids are we thinking about having to this union in the time frame?
One.
I got her down to one. I
or
said
twins.
One, and so she said one or twins, and I said, I don't think we have that much control over that part.
Right. I don't know how that works.
One. Hopefully, like in the next year, right? We say
year two.
Year two. Hopefully 2025, because I want to go down to part-time. I do not plan to work, at least in the first like 2 years.
Okay. Now just remember, you can't go back once they're here. So enjoy. I know people who've done that before. They waited a few years, and I haven't talked to anybody yet that said that they regretted that. They said they had that time to kind of gel as a couple and be more stable. And then they decided to have kids. I had my kids right after pretty much marriage. But so yeah, I guess it just depends on the person. If you both want it, that's what you want, then more power to you. So
that way we can still enjoy each other. But I'm 32 and I'll be 33 when we get married. So I'm like, I'm ready. And then my parents are, older. They want every day. My mom was like, I want to be a grandma. All my friends are grandma. So me and my sister don't have any kids. So they really want to be grandparents because they're, they're in their 70s.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely want those grandkids.
And Tiki, an interesting point for us too, because my mom had me when she was 19. My dad was 17. So like, that's been a very weird relationship probably compared to how she grew up with her parents. I was always on the mature side for my age group. So my mom and our relationship is more similar to like that of friends. I can still go to her and ask questions, but it's not like she's not going to step in with a hard, this is what you're going to do. We could just communicate a little better, but my parents are younger, so that's not really a huge concern for me. My concern is having children a little bit later was I've struggled my whole life, and I saw how my parents struggled financially. I would like to be stable before I put a child into that.
Oh, very wise. Yeah. Tiki got married young, I believe, and you had twins, and she had twins. Um, what advice would you give because you were way younger than him? So
I was 18 and married, and 20 with twin daughters. Yeah.
yeah. So what was financial issue for you as well? Like Shawn said that he wanted to have his financial health together first. So is that kind of what you did too?
Yeah, we were not struggling. I mean, we definitely were not rich, but my kid's father at the time, he kept pretty good job. He was a hard worker. And so even if he didn't have a job that like paid a whole bunch of money, he worked hard, and we always had what we needed. And he wanted me to be a stay-at-home mom. So I was for years. So we were able to manage that. But I had to really learn how to be thrifty with money, very much so. Making sure that I'm stretching whatever he brought in. So I had to be very, very good about that. Did a lot of couponing and thrift store shopping, getting clothing at huge discounts or whatever. So I had to learn to do a lot of that to be able to keep that, to have that privilege still to stay home and raise my daughters, so that I didn't have to go to work, just stretching his money that he was bringing in.
So you saying Paris may have to go from Target to Goodwill when she does this
Good luck with
stuff
that.
part-time.
That's why I said 2025, because he should be making where candidates would be good.
Yeah, actually, I have one of my coworkers. He's in the position that I was hired on for. It's a long training process. I came in with zero knowledge or experience of the business I work in. I asked him and one of the other newer guys out to lunch just to get like some perspective, like, how did you guys do this? Like, are my goals and what I'm believing in this reasonable? And one of them, his name's Danny. He was in a similar position as far as, not having that much experience with what we sell. But his wife is a stay-at-home mom, and he said they did that on $50,000 a year. And I was like, that's rough. I don't know how you do that. Like,
wow.
I'm that now, and like adding a kid to that, I'd be like, I don't know about this. But they did it.
Yeah, it's possible. I read this book called The Richest Man in Babylon. And one thing it said was, he said, if you have one kid or if you had 10 kids, do you think you let any of them starve? What would you say to that? What would you guys think? Any of your kids starve if you got 10 kids? No. See, it's a difference between getting Air Jordans and Air Maxes.
Right.
You'll start. Yep. You'll make it happen, because like I said, I can't wait till you guys have this kid. I'm telling you, it's something magical, because I never wanted kids ever. So I tell people when I got married, I told my wife, I said, I don't want to have kids. How many about you? She said, well, I want to have 2. So we compromised and had 2.
Right.
Yeah, you'll learn about that later, Shawn. Trust me. But once I got the kids, it was like, man, she kind of looks like me, and she kind of does things, and then you find yourself reading to them and going to school, and you're crying when you ride the bus. I'm like, what's going on here? This is not how it's supposed to be. I was supposed to have a Harley. I was supposed to tour the world. But, when it's all said and done, you're like, man, I'm glad I did that. So you guys will have more than one. Remember, I told you. But anyway.
Well, me and my sister are really close, so we're trying to have like a pregnancy pact. So we'll get pregnant.
Okay.
And they can just be best friends, and we both have one, and then that's it. They got somebody to play with.
Yeah, and daycare is ridiculous now. Man, I think what's it about $400 a month for daycare now, something like that. I'm sure you guys probably checked that out.
No,
I'm thinking,
I worked at a daycare before, and it was like $1,200 a month.
What?
For the infant.
I didn't know.
Wow.
That's why I said
it'd be more cost effective to stay at home and have your parent raise you than somebody else.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, that was my husband's philosophy. Yeah, he says, I don't want to pay for daycare. It's cheaper for you to stay home.
Oh man, I guess I changed my thought then. Maybe it would be one then. My bad. I've learned here.
Daycare. But then when my parents are older, it's nice too, because my dad's about to retire next year. So we do have kid babysitter. My mom works from home. My sister is actually a nanny. So we got 3 people. We can just
there you go.
That has influenced our decisions a lot, though. We both wanted to move out of state, but I like my job, and I think it puts us in a good spot. So there's a lot of things around my job that have made our life better together.
Yes.
We kind of came to the conclusion that, well, if we want to have kids, it would be really stupid to move because we're going to lose all of the resources.
Right.
Right.
It would probably be cheaper to just stay here. My family's only 2 hours away, but her family's,
Okay.
15, 20 minutes. So if we stay here, and then we could just visit other places, and then we're not tied to any one spot like we are at home. So we can keep doing different vacations throughout our life.
Okay. All right. Before we wrap it up here, I just had one other question before I ask you guys my last things. Well, actually, two. You guys accept each other's debt as your own as well, too? I know you got the separate accounts, but like if you got $20 million in school loans, you cool with that, and he's cool with that too?
Yeah, I also have way more student debt than she does. I have a master's degree, so
Okay.
yeah, I guess we just kind of came in with what we had, and it was a discussion, but neither of us had any like, I took out $50,000 in credit card loans, but I got these nice shoes or something stupid like that. It was at least education, which is like a different kind of debt,
Yes.
In
Yes.
a way, it's investing in yourself. But because we've been together since post-COVID, neither of us has had any issues with it because I haven't had to pay anything. I was told not to. It doesn't actually benefit me to pay a dime of that currently. So
Right.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I can. I just why?
Right. Exactly. In a former life, I used to do different things. I get with me later. I'll show you guys how to get rid of student loan debts. I'll show you that. Trust me. Last question I have is, what is your love language? What's yours, Paris?
Oh, I don't.
We
We
just
just
talked
had,
about this.
in therapy, and I was like, you know what? I don't even remember what. I would
So
say mine's
there's-
like more.
There's physical touch, gifts, words of
Words of
affirmation.
Yeah.
There's two
acts
of
of service and quality time.
I don't know. I need to do one of those little quizzes. So I feel like
Okay,
I'm a
okay.
little bit of everything, but I probably need to do it to figure it out.
Well, just your top two. What's your top two? If you only could pick two that you want from Shawn, what would it be?
Let me see them.
Sean, what was it? The gifts?
Gifts, words of
And
affirmation,
words of affirmation.
physical touch, acts of service, and quality time.
I would say words of affirmation and the gifts.
Okay. Okay. And what about you, Shawn?
Mine is
Gifts.
definitely quality time. Is always my
Okay.
top. Because like I said, I work a lot. So when I'm home, if I got to come home and then I got to clean up the whole house, and do this and that, and we don't even talk like that. That is like, to me, in a way, the potential beginning for your relationship to fall apart. So quality time's always my number one.
Yeah. Do one of you need more attention or praise, or you guys need that positive you did a good job type thing, or how are you guys on that?
I mean, I wouldn't say I need it, but I do like to hear it. I mean, it's nice.
Yeah, a
It's
pat
not
on the back
wrong.
does nothing for me. So I always see things like that as like, at your job, they'll be like, hey, I just want to give a shout out to this person. To me, it's like, I just did my job. I don't want to pat.
Right.
So I would say,
Exactly.
if between us, I guess she would need more of it, but it's just because it doesn't really mean that much to me to say good job.
Okay. Yeah. What could she do to show you that she appreciated you, that you would like?
I think she does it already. As far as like the cooking and cleaning, like that's something I don't want to do. I'm not that good at it. So
Nice.
that takes something off of me when I get home.
And every time I'm cooking, he's like, thank you for doing it, for cleaning, and always just says that. And I'm like, I gotta make dinner.
Right. Doing your
Gotta eat.
thing. Okay.
Right.
All right. Yeah. And when it comes to kids in the future, how are we going to discipline? Spanking or timeouts? What are we doing here?
I mean, we said both pretty much. I mean, we're all about spankings. We got spanked. You got spanked.
Yeah, I think a lot of people confuse spanking your children with like abusing your
Right,
children.
or beating.
And a lot of people, I have a friend who's like this, there's everything's got to be a conversation with your child about giving them choices. I'm like, they're two, they don't get choices. I don't personally believe in that, and she doesn't either. So that makes it easy for us.
Yeah.
So I think spanking your child is okay. I mean, if the dog's doing something, I might give her a little swat on the butt. It's not going to hurt her. It's just a negative attention thing. Like, oh, if I do this, this happens. Not to say that beating your children is acceptable. Those are two very different things. I think people don't understand maybe, or
right.
I'm not sure the exact reasoning, but yeah, we're definitely fine with spanking and timeouts.
Right. Yeah.
Within reason.
Yeah, I agree with that 1000% too, because with my kids, I only had to spank up a couple times, but it wasn't the first option. I would talk to them and try to say, hey, this is going to happen, this and that, out of love. But then if that happened, you had to get that discipline. So I agree with that. And again, that's in the Bible too, talking about sparing the rod and spoiling the child. So I definitely see that. One person I interviewed on a show, her and her husband never talked about disciplining their children. And when the girl turned 5 years old, their daughter, the dad spanked her and the mother lost her mind. I mean, it was in like divorce court talking about what we're going to do. I was like, wow, people are a little serious about it, So,
yeah, that just happened to my best friend. Her husband didn't talk about discipline, and she's all about talking to them. And he's like, no, give them spankings. And they're trying to get therapy for that, because that's one thing that they always argue about. So yeah, I was like, I made sure we talked about that because they're going through that right now. So
yeah. Do you guys think every couple has to argue, or can you guys just amicably talk about things, or is an argument just gonna happen sometime?
I think an argument's going to happen sometimes, not because it's needed, but because people are typically passionate about something. And religion is a big one. People are passionate about it. And if you come against somebody's religious beliefs, or maybe it's their political beliefs or something like that, that if somebody's passionate about that, it's very hard to keep a calm demeanor in that situation at times, I think.
Okay, fair enough. Before we close here, can you guys give me two things that Shawn and Paris would suggest for all newlyweds, two things you must do to be successful?
I would say take time for each other and just really have those dates where you can just have that quality time and do fun things. Like, don't do something that you always do. Always do something adventurous, something creative. We try to do something that we've never done before.
Yes.
Keep it fun, keep it exciting.
Yeah, we do this thing called the Adventure Challenge. It's a
Ooh.
little book. I think it was designed for people whose relationship may be slowly falling apart, and try to get them back together. But we just did it because it was something cool. And we took a break for it because the last date we got was like a summer thing and it was winter. But it gives you a general idea, like it's going to cost, it'll give you little dollar signs. It's 1 to 5. So you have a dollar amount, a time amount, roughly like where it's going to be, if you're going to have to travel or anything like that. And that's all when you scratch this
Yeah,
off.
you scratch it off like the lottery.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you take pictures as you do it.
Yeah.
You can buy their little snapshot thing, or you can just go to Walmart and do it, print it off yourself. So we do that, and that's been really fun for us. And we just try to do different stuff. But the other thing is listen to the other person. I think that's something that people need in general, especially in your 20s. Like, usually in your 20s, you're in college and you graduate and probably start a job, probably make a few mistakes here and there in between. And then by 30, hopefully you figured a lot of that out. But I'd say a lot of people don't know how to actually listen. And I don't mean just like, hey, did you do this today? And they don't hear you. Like, what is this person actually saying? Because sometimes we don't say exactly what we mean. People are passive aggressive, or they have underlying thoughts behind the actual question they're asking you. So you need to know what that person is actually asking, because what you think is a simple answer might end your relationship, or like early on, more so than later, I think.
Oh, he's so wise. It's scary, man. You're hitting on good points there, because I think that listening is so crucial, because you have to do it like a four-way stop. If every time I try talking, you go, I can't go. We can't. Interrupting is such a pet peeve when it comes to people, because you're not really listening. You're so busy trying to respond. You're not hearing what they have to say. You just, like you said, it's like double dutch. I'm just trying to jump in there and say what I got to say, because what I have to say is probably more important than you. So that's going to be a good reminder for people to just listen and talk on that. A couple of things I wrote down I think couples should keep in mind is like Tiki had alluded to earlier, never go to bed angry. Try to talk. And if you got to be mad and argue, always smile while you're doing it. That'll stop you from being angry. Listen without interrupting and understanding why marriage was instituted in the first place. If you go back to the origin of marriage, you might realize something, because I had to look at that. It's like, why do people get married? And I didn't know until I looked it up. And no one comes before your mate. Always, your mate's going to be number one, no matter what. If somebody told me that they saw my mate out here doing everything, this and that, if my mate doesn't say it, I'm not believing it. So that'd be my advice. Did you have anything you wanted to share on there, Tiki, before I wrap this up?
I did, but you made me forget it. I was actually listening to what you were saying. No, I was actually listening. I can't think of it now.
Okay. All right. Did Shawn and Paris, I thank you guys for sharing your story with us today. I know it's not easy to talk with strangers and have your story going all out to the world, because Shawn, you had mentioned that people can see you. Actually, we're on YouTube, but we're also on Pandora and Audible and Amazon. So a lot of people listen more so than watch at this point. So thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any final thoughts before I just give my quick sentence of wrapping it up? Anything you want to say, anything you want to clarify, anything you want to make clear, or something we didn't touch upon?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
That was it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just wrap up by saying this then. It's a quote by Franklin P. Jones. He said, "Love doesn't make the world go round. Love is what makes the ride worthwhile." So again, our special guests, Shawn and Paris, thank you too for both stopping by the lab today. And we look forward to hearing about your wonderful wedding and seeing the pictures out there. And make sure you guys tune in to What's Up Award, the podcast, anywhere you stream your social media contact. Thank you. Until next time, peace.
Peace.